Hey everyone, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. So it is currently Sunday evening and tomorrow is Monday because Monday is the day that comes after Sunday, but tomorrow is also the start of the Magical Readathon, which is a readathon that's hosted by G at Book Roast. I will leave a link to the announcement video in the description just in case you have no idea what I'm talking about, but I thought I would do a reading vlog this week for the Magical Readathon. I took part in the Magical Readathon last year, the novice path, which was I think in September, and then I also over the past few months completed my character creation prompts. So the character that I created was a wildling elf from Kerador, and I took the quiz to find out what guild I'm part of, and I am in the Mindwalkers guild. So the main aim, I guess, of this week-long readathon is to get your like special skills kind of thing. So there are 2 prompts that you can complete, or yeah, there's a load of different prompts and you can pick 2 to complete to get your special powers sort of thing. I'm doing a really bad job of explaining this. You basically have to complete 1 prompt to get your conduit and then 1 prompt to get your gift. So the 2 prompts that I need to complete are to read a standalone, which is to get my dagger, and then read a science fiction to get the multiverse gift. So yeah, those are the 2 prompts that I am hoping to fulfill over the next week. I am hoping that I can read more than 2 books this week, but the start of this week is looking a little busy, and then I have a load of free time towards the end of this week, so we're going to see how it goes. But last night I made a start on Final Girls by Riley Sager, which I'm using for the dagger prompt, so to read a standalone, and this is a standalone. It's the 4th book that I've read by Riley Sager, and I enjoyed the other books that I read by this author, so I'm hoping that I will enjoy this too. So this is a thriller that's based around the concept of final girls. So you know when you're watching a horror movie and you get to the end and there's usually one character, usually a woman, who's left as the survivor? This book is about those girls, except that in the book the traumatic events that happened to them were real and not a movie. The main character that we're following in this book is a girl called Quincy, and she learns at the very start of this book that this other woman who was also a final girl has just died, and they think it's suicide. However, I know from the summary that Quincy, I think, begins to suspect that it wasn't suicide. First thing that I noticed about this book is that the writing is tiny. So this, oh no, I've just left. My bookmark's just fallen out. Okay, so the first thing that I noticed about this book is that the writing is so small and there's only like 300 and something pages. So I was hoping that this would be a really quick read, but I think it's going to take me a little longer to read than I was expecting, but it's fine. Like, I read the first 20 pages last night and this morning and they did go quite quickly, so maybe I will surprise myself and read this within a few days, but we'll see how that goes. The other book that I would also like to try and read this week is One Last Summer by Rebecca Serle. So this is a contemporary that has a sci-fi twist, and I'm hoping that I can count it for the multiverse prompt, which is to read a science fiction, because even though contemporary is the primary genre, it does have science fiction elements, because it's about a woman whose mom has recently passed away and she decides to go on holiday to Italy because I think her mom used to live there, and she's hoping that by going to Italy she can, I guess, still feel close to her mom. However, when she arrives she actually meets a younger version of her mom, and so she ends up having this opportunity to actually get to know her mom, but her mom when she was her age. I read In 5 Years by Rebecca Serle a few years ago and it was one of my favourite books of the year. I think I read it in 2020 and I loved it. I really enjoyed it, so I'm hoping that I will enjoy this one just as much. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to say in this intro. I am gonna go and get into bed and start reading, so I will catch up with you once I've read some more of Final Girls. Hey everyone, so it's now Monday, so it's officially the first day of the readathon, and I thought I would do an update with my initial thoughts on Final Girls because I'm now 100 pages into this and I'm enjoying it so far. I think I did explain what the basic plot for this is, but we're following a woman called Quincy who 10 years ago went on this trip to this cabin in the woods where her friends were killed and she was the only survivor of this massacre. In the present day, Quincy has just found out that this woman called Lisa has just died, and Lisa is another final girl, so she also went through a very traumatic experience when she was younger, and Quincy and Lisa never met in person, but they talked on the phone where Lisa was giving Quincy advice because they both received a lot of attention from the press. There was also another third final girl called Samantha, which is my name. Samantha went off the radar a few years ago and no one knew what really happened to her. She just kind of disappeared. However, she's now shown up at Quincy's apartment saying that she thinks they should support each other and become friends because no one else really understands what they're going through, and because they've had a lot of attention from the press, and I guess she thinks that they can help each other cope with it. That's the timeline in the present day, but we've also had a few chapters that are set in the past where you see the events that happened at the cabin where Quincy's friends were murdered. I feel like the beginning to this has been a little bit slow so far, but I'm not hating it so far. What I like about Riley Sager's books is how they feel like a horror movie. So you do have this tension where you feel like you're building up to something, and also the other books that I've read by Riley Sager have had really good twists, and that is something that I always look out for in a thriller, so I'm definitely intrigued to carry on reading this. I'm hoping that I can read another 50 to 100 pages tonight, and then I'm going to continue reading on the train tomorrow on my way to work because I would like to try and finish this by Wednesday or Thursday so I can read my second book over the weekend. Hey everyone, so it's now Thursday. It's been a few days since my last update, but I wanted to have a chat about Final Girls because I'm now 175 pages into this and it's okay. I think the problem is that I'm just not really that interested in any of the characters. They keep doing stuff that's really frustrating, and I feel like I've said this before about Riley Sager's books, but Riley Sager is a man who does not know how to write women and the characters in this are doing stuff that to me feels really unrealistic. The main character is very unreliable because she doesn't remember what happened to her during this traumatic event that killed all her friends, and I don't mind the unreliable narrator trope when it's done well, but I really don't like it when a character is unreliable because of memory issues, because often it can feel quite convenient. I feel like I've read that trope so many times now that it just starts to feel very boring, and I'm not really feeling much atmosphere as well in this. And what I enjoyed most about the other Riley Sager books that I read was that there was a lot of twists, but also they had really good atmosphere and really good tension, and so far this is just plodding along at a really slow pace, and the only thing that's still holding my attention is that I feel like there are still some secrets to be revealed. I feel like all of these characters are a little bit dodgy. I don't trust anyone, and I do want to know what happened, like what happened to this woman Lisa that's died, and I want to know what actually happened back in the past, because again I feel like we don't know the full story. There are two directions that I can see this book going in at the moment, and I'm really hoping that I'm wrong. If I was to make a prediction at the moment, I would say this is giving me 3-star feelings. It's not awful, but also it's just nothing special. And considering that the concept sounded really, really unique, I am a little disappointed. Okay, so I have a question. Are we meant to like the main character in this, because I really don't. I just read a chapter that actually made me cringe. Like, I was physically making faces as I was reading it, and that's not a good thing. I refuse to DNF this book because I've come this far and I've only got less than 100 pages left, but I have a feeling that this book is just going to make me more and more angry. I feel like I am literally just hate reading it right now, except that it's just so boring that even hate reading it feels like a chore. Good morning. So I finished reading Final Girls last night, and I'm gonna give this 2 stars, but even then I think I'm being generous because the ending to this was awful, like so bad. And I mean, I guess a positive point is that at least it wasn't boring. It was really fast paced towards the end, but I just hated it. Like, I actually hated it. I predicted most of the twists, but even the twists that I hadn't predicted didn't really surprise me. Like, nothing about this book surprised me. I feel like I pretty much could have guessed the direction this book was going in from the beginning. I actually talked about this book on my Instagram stories last night, and so many people messaged me to say, yeah, it's really bad. So apparently I'm not the only one, although I'm sure I have also seen positive reviews for this. So yeah, I am disappointed that I didn't enjoy this more, considering that I have enjoyed the other Riley Sager books that I've read, but I mean, I guess you win some, you lose some. I have now moved on to my second book for this readathon, which is One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serle. Now, I'm pretty sure that I keep saying the name of this book wrong. I'm pretty sure that in videos before I've called it One Last Summer, and it's not, it's One Italian Summer, but this is by the same author who wrote In 5 Years, which is a book that I really enjoyed when I read it a few years ago. I'm already, I think, about 30% of the way through, so I'm reading it really quickly. I have found it really easy to get into because Rebecca Serle has this very light writing style, even though the topics within the book are a little heavier because it does talk a lot about grief. It follows a woman called Katie whose mom has recently passed away, and before her mom started to get sick, Katie and Carol, so her mom, had planned this trip to Italy because Carol went there when she was around Katie's age and really loved it, and she's always wanted to share this place with her daughter because it has that special place in her heart. Now that her mom has passed away, Katie does decide to go on this trip by herself because she wants to feel close to her mom, and not long after she arrives, she runs into Carol, but Carol when she's 30. So yeah, there is that sci-fi element that hasn't really been explained, and I don't think it will be fully explained, but I don't mind that because I knew that going into the book that was going to be a thing, and I don't think it's actually going to matter too much because the focus of the book is more on Katie and Carol's relationship, and it's about Katie learning who her mom was before she met her husband and before she had her daughter. Like I said, I am really enjoying it so far, and it's a pretty perfect book to be reading at the moment because the weather outside is beautiful and sunny, and I do feel like I've been transported to Italy. So really excited to carry on reading this. I'm hoping to actually finish this today because I don't have many plans. I am going to pop out to see my nan this afternoon, but otherwise I have a free day to just sit and read, and I might actually go and read outside, seeing as how it's nice weather. We'll see. I'll see how I feel later. So it's a few hours later and I am now over halfway through One Italian Summer, and I'm enjoying it so far, but I don't really have strong feelings on it. It's just okay. I like the characters and I like the setting, and I'm reading it quite quickly, but I was just expecting something more. However, I feel like I felt the same way when I read In 5 Years, so maybe this book will surprise me and it will veer off in a completely different direction. The only thing that I'm not really loving at the moment is that I feel like there's going to be a romance. So I don't think I mentioned, but the main character is married. However, before she left to go to Italy, she said to her husband that she wasn't happy and that she wanted to separate. I don't know for definite that there is going to be a romance, but it's been very heavily hinted at. And yeah, like, I don't hate it, but also I'm not really feeling it. But I can remember when I read In 5 Years, I thought that it was just fine up until I got to around the halfway point. So there is still time for me to really, really start to love this book. So I have now finished One Italian Summer by Rebecca Serle, and I'm gonna give this 3 stars overall, which is a fine rating. Like, I didn't hate the book, but I was expecting a little more from it. It's difficult because I think that if you're looking for a book that will make you feel like you're on holiday, or if you're looking for a book to read on holiday, then I thought that this was fine. I really liked the setting, but I was expecting this to be a lot more emotional than it was, considering that it's about grief. I thought that the relationship between Katie and her mum was kind of flat. I didn't dislike Katie as a character, but I really struggled to get on board with the way that she treats her husband in this book. I think I would still read other books by this author, but overall I found this kind of underwhelming. But yeah, I got an arc of this through NetGalley. I'm not sure if I mentioned. It is out already. I think it came out earlier this month. I think I am actually going to end the reading vlog here though, because even though there is one more day left of the readathon, I don't know if I'm actually going to read anything tomorrow. I think the next book that I'm going to be picking up is Jade War though, and I'm really excited about it because I've been wanting to read this book for a really long time, and I've got the special editions from Illumicrate, which have just been sat on my shelf staring at me for the past few months. So I'm going to stop rambling and go to sleep because it's like 11:30 and I am tired. But thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, let me know in the comments if you've been taking part in the magical readathon and what you've been reading. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and click subscribe if you haven't already. And I will see you next time. Bye.